media channels interact and how marketers can take advantage of the multi-screening phenomenon. So going into the agenda, first I'll have a very brief overview of InMobi and what we do. Then we'll get into the research objectives and methodology. We'll follow up with some basic information on media consumption, multi-screening, and what those types of rates look like. And then we'll dig a little bit deeper to understand the motivations of why people multi-screen and what the impact of mobile and multi-screening is on purchase behavior. Now, in addition to the research results, which we'll cover today, there's also a white paper with real-life examples of marketers and how they use multi-screening available for download from our website. So first off, just a little bit of background information about InMobi and what we do. InMobi's core product is a mobile ad network, and around that we've built a comprehensive suite of products and services to help anyone doing business on mobile monetize. So that ranges from award-winning creative services for brands to analytics tools from garage developers. Our mission is really to simplify mobile and help anyone doing business on mobile achieve their objectives. Now next, InMobi was founded in India in 2007, and after spreading throughout Asia and Africa, we launched in Europe and then North America. So now today we have a very global business. All these different regions are very important from a revenue perspective and from a business perspective. We reach 691 million unique mobile users every month, and we're reaching each of those users on average about 10 times per month. So we have a very rich data store on these different users. We reach them through over 140 billion impressions each month. And finally, we were recently named one of MIT's top 50 disruptive companies of 2013. So a very prestigious company here, along with Google, Facebook, and a lot of the other major media companies out there today. So now digging into the research we did and how we conducted this research. So a couple of years ago, we realized we really needed a proprietary source of information on how consumers were using media around the world, how that fit in with how mobile fit in with the other channels they were looking at, and how we could keep up with trends and changes in behavior over time. So we started a study called Mobile Media Consumption. It's one of our flagship studies, and it's probably one of the largest, if not the largest, publicly available source of information on global mobile behavior. So as part of this, we dig in really deep on multi-screening behavior and how that's changing and evolving over time. Now for our methodology here, we worked with two research partners, Decision Fuel and On-Device Research. We distributed a survey through mobile devices via our mobile ad network, and that was taken by respondents through the Decision Fuel and On-Device Research mobile web platforms. And the results were targeted to be representative of the mobile population in each market with the full range of OS and device types. So in Wave 1, which was conducted towards the end of 2011, we had about 23,000 respondents, or about 1,000 per market. And in the most recent wave, Wave 2, we had about 15 markets covered. And so when I say the results were targeted to be representative of these mobile populations, in the US, that means primarily iOS and Android users with a few BlackBerry and feature phone users thrown in the mix. In a market like China, that means a lot of internet-connected feature phone users with a few Android users, and a good mix of urban and rural populations. And now in addition to this, we also conducted a qualitative interactions diary here in the US so we could map out how users were using their phones throughout the day and how that kind of fit in with primetime television. So now just diving into the results. Across the board, and this is fairly consistent across markets, about a quarter of media consumption time happens on mobile. So since we started this research in 2011, we've seen a very significant shift towards more time being spent on mobile and the increased importance of mobile as a media channel. So when we look at how this breaks out in India, the average mobile web user is consuming about 6.2 total hours of media per day. So that includes over an hour and a half on mobile, and here we're talking strictly about mobile media activities. So we excluded time spent on phone calls and time spent on SMS or texting for the purposes of this analysis. We're really talking about the time that the user is spending engaging with apps or browsing the mobile web. That's followed by about 86 minutes watching TV. So in India, mobile is actually the dominant media consumption device, followed by TV, and then online via desktop, laptop, and then some of the more traditional forms of media, as well as new emerging forms such as tablet devices. We're also seeing a very rapid increase in time spent on tablet devices throughout the day. So today what we're faced with is not just what people call dual screening, but actually the rise of people using 3 to 4 devices at one time. So someone could easily be using their mobile device, their tablet, their laptop, and their TV at the same time. And there's quite an extensive body of third-party research which demonstrates the types of multiplier effects which brands can research by advertising on multiple devices. So for example, when a user is watching TV, they're very likely to, say, look up product information for a commercial they saw on their mobile device. And we'll get into some of the stats behind that later on in the presentation. But I think this just gives a very comprehensive kind of breakout of how mobile web users in India are consuming media. Now, one other thing to point out is that this analysis isn't representative of the average person in India. It's representative of the average mobile web user. So here we're strictly concerned with those who have mobile media access. Those who do not are excluded from this analysis. And so here we have a breakout of how this is, how this shift is taking place across markets. So India is among the markets which has the most daily time spent on mobile, or percentage allocation of time spent on mobile. But as you can see here, there's not much variation across markets. So the average is around a quarter of media time spent, and that varies from 32% in the US down to 21% in New Zealand. Now, what we've seen since wave 1 of conducting this research is that there is a steady shift upwards. There's a strong upward trajectory here. So every year, as more and more consumers shift to mobile media, as more brands and websites optimize their websites for mobile and engage consumers through very rich media experiences on mobile, we're seeing these percentages shift upwards. And so now when we look at dual screening in particular, we see 63%, so an easy majority of mobile web users, about 2/3 in India, engaging in mobile media activities while watching TV. So once again, I think with a figure like 63%, this really underscores the importance for brands to really consider mobile as a media channel. Even as they're reaching these users through TV, these users may be tuning out during commercial, and I think it says a lot about how kind of ADHD the modern day media consumer has become. So with new technologies like everything ranging from TiVo to mobile, it's very easy for consumers to selectively pay attention to the content that they're most interested in and engage with other content on other devices while they're doing so. So this really demonstrates the importance of brands to have multiple consumer touch points across different channels and devices to really engage different types of consumers. And so now here we ask respondents, what specific activities do you typically conduct while watching TV? And here we're asking about the top 2 activities they conduct. So as you can see here, the top buckets are really communications activities. So number 1 is social networking. And I think we've all seen a rise in the past couple years of not just brands, but even TV shows and TV properties engaging with their fans through channels like Facebook and Twitter during a show. So we have a lot of events being live tweeted these days, or we have kind of status updates on Facebook for a new episode of a TV show which is being released, for example. And then this is followed closely by text messaging and instant messaging. So it's very clear here that TV viewers are wanting to stay in touch with other people and have TV is becoming a very social experience. Communications is now, with friends and family, is now a very definitive part of the TV watching experience, and this is especially true in India. Now that's followed by a distant third is playing games or listening to music, and then about 20%, so this is almost 1 in 5 mobile web users, are searching for information about products they see on TV directly on their mobile devices while they're watching TV. So I think there's some very interesting synergies for brands to consider here. Even as they design their TV creatives, I think everyone needs to be kind of taking into account how consumers are going to be accessing follow-up information on their mobile devices and how brands can make that transition very simple for them. So with a brand, when a brand has a mobile optimized website and app, it's much easier for a consumer to access product information, to look up information about the brand when they see it on TV. And then, of course, we have a few other important categories here. So we see searching for information about the show you're watching, as well as searching for content not related to what you're watching. So I think what this underscores here is the importance of mobile devices as a tool for gathering information, both in regards to the situation at hand, as well as unrelated information. And so here, this is actually global data, but to kind of understand why consumers are all multi-screening, we asked what their comfort levels were accessing the internet both through a mobile device as well as through a traditional desktop or laptop computer, and how they typically go online. And what we see here is even 50% now use mobile as either their primary or exclusive means of going online. This is a global average of about 15 markets, which has a good mix of emerging markets, developed markets, and markets in various stages of mobile maturity. Some markets which are just kind of gaining growth in their mobile penetration, as well as very advanced mobile market. But this data is actually remarkably consistent across all these markets. Now, when we say 50% here, once again, we are talking about mobile web users, so those who have access to mobile media. So this stat really isn't representative of the general population, but I think the important thing to consider is that in most of the markets where we're conducting research, in most of these major media markets across the world, mobile web users are quickly becoming the majority of the population, and they're driving a lot of the purchases and revenue, whether it's through e-commerce or m-commerce, for a lot of these brands. Now, finally, we asked these mobile web users what their preferred device is for various activities that they conduct, whether that's a mobile phone, a desktop or laptop, a TV, or in some cases, traditional print media. And we see here that for entertainment, mobile is actually the preferred device over TV in India. And that's due to a few reasons. One is the fact that mobile penetration is just greater than TV penetration in this market. And I think two is just the access, the always-on access that mobile gives to entertainment options for the everyday consumer. So for example, the ability to, say, play games while commuting, or even play games or look up information or watch other videos while one is watching TV. And we actually see here that mobile is the preferred device for most of these activities except for shopping. So whether it's finding out information, whether it's communicating with others, mobile media and mobile devices are beating out every other major device type. And once again, this is among mobile web users. So next, we wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the motivations of multi-screening. So we see how important mobile is, and we see that it's the preferred device for a lot of these different types of activities, transactions, and whatever it may be. But why is that? Why are consumers turning to mobile? And once again, this is something that's remarkably consistent across markets. And this is the exact same, I think, in pretty much every major media market where we've run this research. Number one is it's easy to use. So at home, it's easier to pull out a mobile phone and look something up than it is to walk over to a desk, wait for a computer to boot up, open an application. So mobile phones really give you instantaneous access to information. The number two is it's always there. So users always have their mobile devices with them, whether they're at home, whether they're at work, whether they're commuting. It's very simple to just reach into your pocket and look up information on your device. So that constant availability is a big factor into reasons for mobile use. And that actually also explains a lot of the multi-screening kind of intent and behavior that we're seeing. The fact that mobile is so easy to use and pull out and browse simultaneously while one is watching TV. And then number three, and this is, I think, pretty interesting, and once again, very remarkably consistent across markets, is a privacy factor. So there is an implied zone of privacy around mobile devices. So for example, it's generally considered taboo to, say, access information on a spouse's device. Mobile devices just have this taboo zone of privacy around them. And that's actually very interesting for brands to think about when we're making decisions about how to advertise, say, personal care products or products of a slightly more sensitive nature. I think that privacy here is key. And then so next, what impact is this all having on purchase behavior? And consumers are turning to their mobile devices, spending more time and accessing them during TV time. But so what? What does this mean for brands, and what impact is this actually going to have on revenue and bottom lines? So first of all, we're looking at where consumers are using their devices. And what we see here is that we have different times for doing different things. So we have dinner time, TV time, family time. There isn't really a mobile time. And that's because mobile is used throughout all these times. So we see mobile as more of a parallel ecosystem, which enables greater and greater amounts of multitasking, of shopping on the go, of doing research for different products to purchase on the go. and that's enabling new levels of commerce. This gets very interesting when we think about targeting ads contextually. So really taking into account a user's specific location and context, going beyond basic demographics like age, gender, and household income to find out how to get the right ad to the right person at the right time. Now, one other interesting thing you'll see here is that we have 81% of respondents in India using their devices while waiting for something, and 61% using their devices while commuting. This is what we call found time. So this is time that would have been otherwise wasted, and consumers are now able to put this time to use because it's time that would have been wasted otherwise. And during found time, what we see is that consumers tend to engage in what we call snacking sessions. So just short and quick bursts of looking up information, of playing games, things that don't really take too long. So the types of ads that work best in these types of situations are ads which don't require too much thought or contemplation, ads which are just quick and simple and to the point. Now, say at a different time, such as shopping or while lying in bed, when the consumer is a little bit more focused on different types of products or potentially has a little bit more time to engage or interact with an ad, that's when we find that ads which involve, say, a lengthier purchase process cycle or a little bit more kind of comparison shopping and product research resonate better. Now, what's also interesting here is we have 22% of respondents using their devices in the bathroom. That's another example of found time which would have been wasted and is now being put to use. And then now, so going back to purchasing decisions here, we asked respondents, what are the most impactful forms of media on their actual purchase decisions? And in India, mobile comes in at number 2 with 44%, just pretty much on par with TV at 48% and online, 41%. So we're seeing some of the more traditional forms of media, such as print media, and to a greater extent, even outdoor media and radio, having less of an impact during the purchase process, and we're seeing the new digital forms of media have a greater impact. So this really reflects the amount of time that users are spending on these different devices and the way they're engaging with content and with brands. And this is something that Mary Meeker actually called out in her latest presentation, where she kind of highlights the difference between the amount of time we're actually spending on these digital channels versus the amount of ad spend that marketers are allocating for these new channels, which is still vastly underrepresented in terms of ad budgets. And so next, to dig a little bit deeper around the impact of mobile and mobile ads in particular, here we ask users how comfortable they are with mobile ads compared to TV and online ads. And we see that in India, about 2/3 of mobile users are very comfortable with mobile ads, and over a third actually find them to be very useful. And I think this says a lot about the impact that mobile ads can have when they're really done right. So when they're designed properly and when they deliver very rich, immersive experiences to the consumer and when they reach the right consumer at the right time. So an example of this is a campaign that we actually did for a large auto manufacturer recently, which had a rich media ad with a gamified element. So the ad would show up as a banner on on the user's screen, and once they expanded it, they'd have a little game where they could kick a soccer ball into the door of the car. And this was at the height of soccer season. So having this gamified element allowed the user to almost have just a mini small game for free on their phone. And this was targeted towards soccer fans. So anytime a soccer fan sees an ad like that, it's soccer season, they're able to interact with something they love, a sport they love, as well as with the product. That's always going to be a cool experience for them, and those are the type of experiences where mobile has the potential to deliver a lot of value. And that's actually all we had for today. For more information, you can download our white paper from our website, and we'll also be answering follow-up questions via email. So if you have any questions, just send them out to insights@inmobi.com, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thanks for attending, and we'll also be sending out a recording of this webinar for your reference. Thanks, everyone.